The offseason is here for the Pittsburgh Pirates, and changes have already started with the coaching staff. Andy Haines and Justin Meccage are out. What does that mean for the organization, and are there more moves to come?
You are Locked On Pirates, your daily Pittsburgh Pirates podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
It is your team, your Pittsburgh Pirates. Everybody, welcome back to the Locked On Pirates podcast here on the Locked On Podcast Network. My name is Ethan Smith. You can find me on Twitter right there at MVP_Ethan or at Locked On Pirates for all of your news, analysis, opinions, and reactions to everything going on in the world of the Pittsburgh Pirates from a lifelong fan to lifelong fans just like you. Today's episode is brought to you by PrizePicks. Download the PrizePicks app today and use code LOCKEDONMLB and get $50 instantly when you play $5. PrizePicks, run your game. So we got an insinuation last night from a national reporter in Jesse Rogers that Pirates hitting coach Andy Haines was no longer with the team, and we got confirmation later on from a lot of beat writers, a lot of news reporters here in Pittsburgh. Andy Haines, folks, out as the hitting coach of the Pittsburgh Pirates. So let's just do a golf clap. Okay, great, golf clap done. This, and I'm not even going to bury the lead here, this is an overdue move, period. It just is. I have been calling for the Pirates to get rid of Andy Haines as early as 2022. He's been here since 2021. It just, to me, was never working out. We were constantly seeing players just looking at strike three down the middle or looking at strikes right down the middle. And I think the biggest issue that we've kind of seen with Andy Haines, but this could go further than him, is the development of what we've seen from these young hitters. Like Jack Sawinski, for instance, had a pretty good 2023, and to steal some of Gary Morgan's words from yesterday, turned into a potato this year. Henry Davis, who was your number one overall pick in 2022, has yet to really flourish. He hasn't really, or 2021, sorry. He's yet to flourish offensively. I'd even argue that he's overtaken his abilities as far defensively as that goes versus offensively. And then you look at what's happened with Nick Gonzalez. Took him a while. You look at Liover Peguero, Ji-Hwan Bae, a lot of the young guys. You just haven't seen that next step from them as far as development hitting the baseball. And that's a problem because a lot of that has to go back to said hitting coach, Andy Haines. Now, that could just be a flat-out organizational problem. That's a whole nother conversation to have. But even the statistics back up why this made sense for the Pittsburgh Pirates to move on from Andy Haines. Again, a move that was overdue. He just finished his third season, and if you see me peek over, it's because I have notes written down about this. He just finished his third complete season with this team. They ranked in the bottom third of the majors in pretty much every offensive category this past year. The same can be said for 2023, and the same can be said for 2022. Okay, so it's pretty consistently bad. The Pirates this year in the National League, just the National League, were 14th out of 15 teams in the NL in hits, strikeouts, batting average, which was a 234, on base percentage, which was a 301, last in slugging at 371, and OPS was also worst in the National League at 6 and 72. Mind you, this is a league with the Colorado Rockies and the Miami Marlins. So it makes you think, okay, why did it take this long to make this decision? Well, firing a hitting coach in the middle of the year can be tough. Firing any coach in the middle of the year can be a tough move. And you look at some of the positives that we saw as far as hitting was concerned this year, and we'll obviously get into these when we get into the player review series starting soon. I mean, you look at O'Neal Cruz. He took that big step forward, 2020 season. Joey Bart had a good season. Brian Reynolds had a good year. But Brian Reynolds at this point doesn't need a hitting coach to tell him how to be good. But this, again, is just, it's a move that I think, one, is overdue, as I've said a couple of times. But it's also signifying what the Pirates saw and have seen now for the past 3 years. And it's good that the team is acknowledging that. You could say, like I've said, that it was overdue, but at least they've done it now. They've acknowledged this is not good enough, period. What we have seen from Andy Haines and what we saw from Andy Haines in his tenure as the Pirates hitting coach was flat out not good enough. And I disagreed with the signing almost immediately because he was a large reason why Christian Yelich fell off a cliff in Milwaukee. And then suddenly, Andy Haines leaves, Christian Yelich gets healthy, he turns into Christian Yelich again. Is there a coincidence to that? I don't really know. But this is a move, and we'll get into this a little bit later on the show too. This is a move that I think is sending a signal to the coaching staff, the players, and the team overall. Because let's not forget that Derek Shelton is also a former hitting coach. He's a guy that has experience in that field and is now a manager. But this is a move that had to happen. Andy Haines had to go. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. The statistics do not do him any favors. From what we've seen as far as player development, as far as the offense is concerned, has not been good enough. And it's just the right move because you have to make a change. Now, off the top of my head, I can't tell you who they're going to replace him with. I will do a show of some sort to talk about that, unless it does come out relatively quickly, because it may just end up being an internal hire, which I would disagree with highly, because I just don't think much would change if it's an internal hire. I think they need to go outside of the organization, get a very good philosophy in here, get these guys going, get that meter turning up on the guys I mentioned earlier, like Henry Davis and Jack Sawinski, because you need them and they are integral parts of your team. Yeah, go get a guy from outside the organization that can start working this thing out. Go get a guy that has just I don't want to say a completely different philosophy, because some things that Andy Haines did have in his philosophy were okay, but the greater majority were not. But also, let's get a guy with a track record. Let's get a guy that has positives in his track record as far as where he's been, what he can do for this team, what he can do in the future, and how he can help this team take that step forward offensively that they have desperately needed to take. Because what we've seen from this current regime has not been good enough offensively. And that's why you've had to see them go out and get Rowdy Tellez, G-Man Choi, Michael A. Taylor, Yasmani Grandal, and so on and so forth, because they haven't been able to develop offensively, in large part to what we've seen from Andy Haines. But Andy Haines was not the only one to go, as the Pirates also announced that they were moving on from Justin Meccage, the bullpen coach. We're going to talk about that a little bit because, Yeah, that one's pretty warranted too. Are more moves to come, and how does this all impact the organization? We're going to discuss next on Locked On Pirates. Today's episode is brought to you by Prize Picks. Download the Prize Picks app today and use code LOCKEDONMLB and get $50 instantly when you play $5, because you can now win up to 100 times your money on Prize Picks with as little as 4 correct picks. Prize Picks is the best way to get action on sports in over 30 states, including California, Florida, Georgia, and Texas. And if you sign up today, you get $50 instantly when you play $5. You don't even need to win to receive the $50 bonus. It's guaranteed. Prize Picks also offers weekly promotions that can lead to big payouts like Taco Tuesday. Each Tuesday, Prize Picks discounts select player projections up to 25% to provide even more value for your lineups. Prize Picks is the best way to win real money this football season. Which players are going off and which ones aren't? Make your Prize Picks picks in less than 50 or 60 seconds and turn your sports opinions into real money all season long. Download the app today and use code LOCKEDONMLB to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. It's highly recommended that you do so. So download the app today, use code LOCKEDONMLB and get $50 instantly after you play $5. Prize Picks, run your game. And welcome back, everybody, to the Locked On Pirates podcast here on the Locked On Podcast Network. After making this your first listen of the day, make sure you head to Locked On MLB to hang out with Paul Francis Sullivan, a.k.a. Sully, because the playoffs start today. We got a little taste of what the playoffs may be like yesterday between the Mets and the Braves in that crazy first game of that doubleheader. Playoffs start today, so Sully has you covered with everything you need to know as far as the playoffs are concerned. And as far as the Pirates are concerned, Andy Haines, of course, is kind of the big move here. This is the one that a lot of people were going to be happy about when it eventually was announced. It has not been announced by the team, but per sources from pretty much every beat writer in Pittsburgh have said that Andy Haines is out. Meanwhile, they didn't only do that. They also moved on from Justin Meccage, the bullpen coach, of the Pittsburgh Pirates, who has been with this team for a very long time to be with this team. Has been here since 2011, became the assistant bullpen coach in 2018, was promoted to that top spot in 2020. And yeah, it hasn't really worked out that much since he got that top spot. You look at what happened this year. The bullpen was just tough, man. I mean, it was really one of the biggest reasons why this Pirates team did not take that next step that we all expected them to take this year. And it's because they posted a 4.49 ERA, which was fourth worst in the major leagues. Biggest thing that I think we saw, and probably the biggest reason why this move was made, was because of just the taking a step back, I'll say, of David Bednar, who obviously former All-Star Pittsburgher, has been and shown he can be a top closer in this league. Just had a dreadful 2024. Dreadful year from David Bednar, who had a 5.77 ERA, 7 blown saves, and 62 appearances. And this is just the kind of thing where you're not going to get rid of Bednar because of what we've seen he can do. But Justin Meccage, on the other hand, you've kind of seen what he can do, and it hasn't exactly been all that great. I mean, you look at last season, yeah, the bullpen was pretty good last year. Well, not pretty good, but it was good enough. It was 19th in the league last year. And Meccage, again, it's just been tough because through his time with the Pirates as the head bullpen coach, they only cracked the top 20 one time in ERA, and that was last year. And you can argue with these moves and talking about the statistics behind these moves, saying that in 2022 and 2021, they didn't really have the talent. And I can agree with you there. I can, truthfully. But you have to start seeing some kind of step forward once the talent itself is here. And the Pirates have gotten better since this point, but Andy Haines and Justin Meccage haven't. So that kind of plays a lot of into this as well, where you're seeing that the team has obviously gotten better. The players have gotten better. The coaching has not. Now, could the same thing be said even farther up? Sure. Because I think the biggest questions that you talk about now when you see Justin Meccage and Andy Haines gone are, okay, what's next? Is there anything else coming? Could we see a guy like Tarek Brock on his way out? Could we see Oscar Marine potentially on his way out? And of the big questions that we have through the offseason, could Derek Shelton be out? These are moves that could very well happen. This could just be the start of all of this. And if it is, we'll see. But it makes you wonder, because moving on from a bullpen coach and a hitting coach is no small matter. You're talking about changing the philosophies of what's going on with those two units, being the offense and being the bullpen. And when you're discussing that, you're saying, okay, let's see what philosophies we get. And you're not only talking about the philosophy that you're seeing at the big league level, folks. You're seeing that philosophy as well documented all the way through the minors. And me and Gary went to that Altoona Curve game, and you could see it. You could see what was being implemented. You could see what philosophy hitting-wise and bullpen-wise was being thrown at these guys. Because that's why those coaches are there. They're there to implement what is going on at the biggest level, so that when those players rise through the ranks and get to that level, they start to already know, okay, this is what I'm asked to do because I've already done it. Obviously against lesser talent, but they've already done it. So now, if you're going outside the organization, that philosophy is going to change. And you're going to start seeing some interesting things happen as far as some of these minor leaguers are concerned. Because you might see, let's say, a rise in statistics from, just throwing a name out there, Termar Johnson in a certain statistical area that you wouldn't have seen elsewhere. And that's an interesting kind of dilemma that you end up having when you're having to switch coaches, is what kind of philosophy is this new hitting coach going to have? Is it going to be similar to what we saw with Andy Haines, where it's going to be patient at the plate, get on base, find that, which it didn't work. But is it going to be that? Or could it be something completely different? Could we see, going into 2025, could we see a lot more aggressiveness? Could we see guys like O'Neal Cruz, maybe even a Brian Reynolds, get more aggressive early in the count, go after some of those pitches that they see early that they like, get on base quicker, and, maybe the on base goes down a little bit, but you start to see the average, the slugging, the OPS go up. And with the bullpen coach, excuse me, we'll see what happens there. I wouldn't be shocked if the bullpen coach decision is an internal hire. And really with this bullpen, it's going to be a bounce back candidate in 2025 because it really can't be much worse than it was this year. I mean, it was a unit that almost single-handedly took this team out of any thought of playoff contention. So we'll see what happens there. But you move on from a hitting coach that many fans wanted us to move on from because, again, just not that good. Meccage, I mean, 5 seasons, only cracked the top 20 in ERA one time. And we'll see. These are moves that, folks, they have substance. These are moves that will impact this team going into 2025. And I can't sit here and guarantee you that they are the only moves that we will see for the remainder of the offseason. That goes for coaching, that goes for management, that goes for players. And we'll just see how it all works out. But these are good moves. These are moves that are telling of what the Pirates saw this year and didn't like, what they saw in previous years and did not like. And they've made a move to potentially fix it. So good on them. 11 years ago today, the Pittsburgh Pirates played the Cincinnati Reds in a National League wildcard game. We're going to revisit it next on Locked On Pirates. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Make sure you go to FanDuel.com right now because NFL fans, you can start the season with a big return on FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. So when you get a hunch in the middle of the game, you can check out the latest stats, view live play-by-play, and so much more on the same page where you place your bets. You'll get started with $200 in bonus bets guaranteed when you place your first $5 bet. And don't forget, folks, you got 4 MLB games that you can bet on today on FanDuel. FanDuel, America's #1 sports book. Today's episode is also brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app today and use code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off your first purchase. Terms do apply. Game Time has a new feature called Game Time Picks that makes getting tickets to your favorite live events even easier. Game Time Picks filters out all the fluff to show you only incredible deals on great seats so you don't have to waste time searching through thousands of tickets. Excuse me. All-in pricing will allow you to see your total up front with no surprise fees at checkout. Get a panoramic view from your seat in the app before you buy, and your purchase is covered with the most flexible customer service policy in the ticketing industry. So take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off your first purchase. Terms do apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off, and download Game Time today. What time is it? It's game time. And welcome back, everybody, to the final part of today's episode of Locked On Pirates here on the Locked On Podcast Network, where it is your team, your Pittsburgh Pirates, every single day. Thank you, as always, to all of my everydayers who always tune into the show and make it the experience that it is. Thank you to everybody who always hits that subscribe button, leaves a good rating on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcast. Can't thank you enough. 11 years ago today, folks, the Pittsburgh Pirates, in what will probably still be, for now, my favorite moment as a baseball fan in my lifetime, was the Pittsburgh Pirates playing the Cincinnati Reds in the 2013 wildcard game, the first time that they'd been in the playoffs in 21 years. To that point, if you didn't get the chance to, our Locked On Reds guys did a phenomenal live show yesterday after the passing of Pete Rose. So rest in peace to Pete Rose, and go check that out, because they not only talked about Pete Rose's impact on baseball, they also talked about just how much he meant to the city of Cincinnati. And it was really touching to see what they talked about. But you also look at 2013, and it was a year that I kind of started comparing this year to at times. Although that 2013 team was absolutely nuts. I mean, you had Andrew McCutchen, Neil Walker, Josh Harrison, Russell Martin. It was just a phenomenal team and a phenomenal moment for a city that still to this day is begging for success from its baseball team again. And that moment in the wild card game is something that I wish ownership management, coaching, every aspect of the organization, I wish could just sit down and watch that and say they want that again. Because the fans want it again. I will never forget sitting in my living room with my parents and Johnny Cueto has his name being chanted by God knows how many Yinzers in PNC Park. And I looked at my mom as a young kid and I said, Russell Martin's going to hit a home run here. Lo and behold, there goes that drive into left field. That place erupted. Cincinnati was never winning that game after that. And that's a moment that you look at and you say, that's what Pirates baseball could be with the right things in place. And since the Pirates have not won a playoff series, they obviously went on to lose to the Cardinals. They didn't win in 2014. Thanks, Madison Bumgarner. And then they didn't win in 2015. Thanks, Jake Arrieta. Since then, they've had one winning season. As fans, and I know you guys struggle with this too, and we all do, because this is more than anything a fan-led show. We just want that moment back, or a moment similar to it back. We just want to feel the rush of being back in the postseason, or even just having the thought going into the final week of the year. And when you revisit it, and when you look back on it, you say, it was good. We can get back there. And right now, the pieces are starting to be put in place to get back there. We'll just see what goes on. Folks, thank you so much for tuning in to the and dealing with my sore throat today. Thank you for tuning into the Locked On Pirates podcast here on the Locked On Podcast Network, where it is your team, your Pittsburgh Pirates, every single day. Follow me on Twitter at MVP_Ethan or at Locked On Pirates for all of your news, analysis, opinions, and reactions to everything going on in the world of the Pittsburgh Pirates as it pertains to you, the fans, from a fan just like me. You can find the show on YouTube and all of your audio platforms because it is free and available to you. We'll see you tomorrow, but until then, see you on the flip side.